So, tuwang-tuwa na ako, yun yan, last 2 na tayo. Anyway, um, pinaikli ko, sinubukan ko yung comprehensive topics na lang yung ating i-discuss, ano? Okay, so start na tayo. So, endocrine disorder. So, yung pinaka-common dito syempre ay diabetes. So, as we all know, your pancreas has your endocrine and your exocrine function. So for the endocrine function, you have your islets of Langerhans, which secrete your hormones, especially your insulin. Okay, so what is diabetes mellitus? So it is a metabolic disorder in which the body's ability to produce or respond to insulin is impaired. So this would result um, to your hyperglycemia or elevated blood glucose. So normally, when you have your food intake, so ko-convert syempre ng katawan natin yan sa blood sugar. So your pancreas will release your insulin into the blood. So yung insulin kasi is just like a key to open these cells. So para ma-absorb ng cells yung glucose. So as you can see in the diagram, yung insulin yung orange, tapos yung glucose yung green. So the pancreatic cells will release your insulin to the bloodstream. Then eventually, this will lock into your cells and let the cells absorb your glucose. So sa diabetes, so 'di ba meron tayong type 1 and type 2 diabetes. So in type 1 diabetes, you do not have your insulin. There is absolute insulin deficiency. So therefore, both of them naman cannot absorb glucose. While on the other hand, your type 2 diabetes, yung cells naman ang hindi nagre-respond sa insulin. So meron kang insulin, either hindi siya sapat or hindi siya nagre-respond. So there's insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes. So pakitandaan na lang po yung difference nila. So in your type 1, again, you have absolute insulin deficiency o walang insulin talaga. While in your type 2, there's insulin resistance. Kulang yung insulin or hindi nagre-respond yung um, cell sa insulin. Okay, so again, your classification of your diabetes, your type 1, is due to your autoimmune beta cell destruction. So, yung mismong cell yun na yung beta cells undestructed, kaya distracted or sira na, kaya wala talaga siyang mapoproduce na insulin. While in your type 2 diabetes, there is progressive loss of beta cell insulin secretion, frequently on the background of insulin resistance. So, yun lang talaga yung difference niya. Um, Dati kasi ang term for type 1 diabetes is insulin dependent kasi nga wala siyang insulin. While in your type 2 is non-insulin dependent. So here are your symptoms of your diabetes. Meron na ba sa inyo elevated blood sugar or diabetic na? Or may parents na may diabetes? So ito yung usual symptoms niya, your frequent urination, madalas na maihi, madalas na gutom, feeling hungry and thirsty, tapos slow wound healing, hindi madaling gumaling yung sugat. Then some patients would initially complain of tingling on the hands and feet and unexplained weight loss and even sexual disorders, yung mga may erectile dysfunction. So here are the 3 P's of your diabetes. Pakitandaan din yung polyuria, excessive urination, polyphagia, increase in appetite, and polydipsia, excessive in thirst. So here are more on the clinical side, the guidelines we use is the American Diabetes for the criteria for your diabetes. So in-enclose ko na siya sa red box. Paki-memorize na lang po. For your fasting blood sugar, that is your FPG. If it is more than 126 milligrams per deciliter or it's 7 millimoles per liter. If your 2-hour postprandial, 2-HPG is 2-hour postprandial blood sugar is more than 200 milligrams per deciliter or 11.1 millimoles per liter. Or pero itong A1C or HbA1c, hemoglobin A1C is not really for the diagnosis, more on monitoring ito. So if it is more than 6.5% or 48 millimoles per liter, and your random, yung mga RBS na tinatawag, random blood sugar, ito yung mga walang fasting. If it is more than 200 milligrams per deciliter or 11.1 millimoles per liter, you are already considered diabetic. Pakitandaan na lang yung values. Okay, so here's another differentiating factor. Nilagyan ko na lang din po ng red box yung mga dapat yung tandaan. So, yun nga, type 1 diabetes, insulin deficiency due to autoimmune destruction. Your type 2 is insulin resistance. And on the onset, kung ang dati classical example ng may type 1 diabetes is Gary Valenciano kasi kabataan niya, nag-insulin na siya agad. So, your type 1 occurs usually in younger patients. Pero ngayon, there are studies that would say na hindi lang pang younger patients ang type 1, pwede siyang may mga autoimmune din na nadi-discover nila 'pag matanda na. Pero usually, they are found in younger patients and in your type 2 diabetes, usually yan yung mga elderly natin. So for the treatment in type 1 diabetes, kung ano yung wala, mga endocrine disorders, it's either a deficiency in your hormone or excess in your hormone. So sa diabetes type 1, wala siyang insulin, so you give insulin. For your type 2 diabetes, meron pa namang insulin yan, kailangan lang nadagdagan or kaya you help these patients through giving of oral hypoglycemic agents. So, di-decrease lang yung blood sugar. Yung insulin patients who are uncontrolled, so we also give insulin to this kind of patients. But primarily, it is not the treatment of choice initially. And then, we observe ketoacidosis in the type 1 diabetic patients. It is a common complication. Again, it is a common complication in your type 1 diabetes, this ketoacidosis. So, yun. So, yung type 1 cannot be reversed kasi nga, para siyang yung merong modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Kasi ang type 1 is inherited and autoimmune. So, it is non-modifiable, it cannot be reversed, while your type 2, pwede mo siyang i-delay or even prevent the occurrence of this disease through lifestyle changes. Kasi usually, sa lifestyle siya nakukuha bukod sa genetics. Okay, so again, for the treatment, so yung oral medications, mga anti-diabetics, or insulin. We also advise patients to do blood sugar monitoring and control their diet. O sa mga medyo nalalakas ang kain, ganyan. Yes, Sir Franklin.
Ma'am, paano po malalaman kapag may diabetes na sa blood sugar monitoring?
Mm. So, yun, ito yun, yung criteria na to. So, usually, yung mga patient, ako, pag kunwari may admission, random, yung random plasma glucose. Yan, if it is more than 200 milligrams per deciliter or 11.1 millimoles per liter. Pero that's, sa akin, ang aking qualifying talaga is your fasting. But then, screening na yung, kunyari, yun nga, nag more than 200, 240, yung, kunyari, 240 milligram per deciliter. Then may history ka rin, family history ka ng diabetes. I would tag you as type 2 diabetes mellitus suspect. Parang ganon.
Okay po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay. Thank you rin sa tanong. Pwede kayo magtanong ha. Lalo na kung medyo nararamdaman nyo na yung 3-piece na to. Yan. Tsaka malakas kumain. Yan. Malakas sa rice. sa soft drinks. Tapos may family history. Nako, ito ay ipa-test niyo na, fasting or yung mag-random blood check na kayo, 'yan. So, ito yung mga complications ng diabetes na ayaw nating mangyari sa pasyente. So, ang pasyente puwedeng ma-stroke, cerebrovascular disease kahit na hindi siya high blood. Yung iba nagkakasabay, hypertensive na yung patient tapos diabetes pa, so na-stroke sila. Then permanent kidney damage, yung mga nagda-dialysis na patients, almost all of them have diabetes. Yun yung kanilang predisposing factor kung bakit sila nagkaroon ng kidney disease. And then diabetic foot infection. So, for diabetics, dahil nga 'di ba, isa sa mga symptoms niya is tingling or numbness sensation, wala na halos sensation sa paa. We advise them to check every now and then yung mga toes, yung mga in between ng toes nila kung meron bang sugat. Kasi minsan hindi nila napapansin yun. Minsan yung iba may nakikita kami na nakaapak ng thumbtacks, hindi nila nararamdaman yun. Dadating na lang sa emergency room or sa clinics maga na siya, saka pangit na yung sugat. Tapos peripheral neuropathy, yun nga siya yung pamamanhid, and also heart attack. So, diabetes being a metabolic disease, um, lagi ko sinasabi lalo na sa patients, pagka kung ikukumpara mo ang pasyente na may diabetes pero walang history ng heart attack, it is, comparative to a patient na walang diabetes pero may history ng heart disease. So gano'n siya. Gano'n siya let's, gano'n siya kahirap i-manage din. Kasi hindi mo masasabi bigla na lang yang maghirapang huminga. Ang mga pasyente rin kasing may diabetes, hindi siya magma-manifest as we have learned, yung angina pectoris. Sa mga may diabetic, hindi siya more on chest pain, more on biglang nahirapang huminga or 'yun, DOB usually dyspnea yung usual, symptom nila, hindi chest pain 'pag nagkaka-heart attack. And also, we advise patients na magpa-check-up ng mata. This could also be one of your complications, your retinopathy or even blindness. Kasi yung asukal sa dugo, if uncontrolled especially or matagal na siyang diabetic, it can accumulate sa inyong, arteries or veins sa inyong mata. Or it could cause cataract formation. So, pakitandaan na lang din po itong slide na ito. Okay, so if your diabetes is not controlled, you have your diabetic emergencies. These are your DKA and your HHS, your diabetic ketoacidosis, and your hyperosmolar hyperglycemic state. Ito rin po ay pakitandaan yung slide. So your diabetic ketoacidosis, as I've said, is more common in your type 1, while your hyperosmolar hyperglycemic state more common in your type 2. So mortality is even higher in your HHS, so mas more fatal ang HHS. So for the treatment, ito na lang. Yung diagnostic criteria is nice to know. So if you're actually both of them have hyperglycemia pero mas mataas yung sugar level pagka HHS. And then siyempre kaya siya tinawag na diabetic ketoacidosis, may ketones ka sa urine or sa blood. Ketosis, kaya diabetic ketoacidosis. So for the treatment, ah pakitandaan na lang din 'pag diabetic ketoacidosis, we give fluid replacement and your IV insulin. Yung potassium, why give potassium replacement? Usually kasi ang insulin ay nakakababa ng potassium. For your HHS, so it suffice to know na hindi kailangan ng insulin, more on hydration siya, and replace your, fluids, your electrolytes also. So yun lang po. So ulit yung DKA type 1, more on type 1. Tapos mortality rate higher in your HHS, which is more common in your type 2 diabetes patients. And then your DKA, we give fluids and IV insulin. For your HHS, insulin is not indicated. Okey pa tayo? May tanong po ba sila? Okey, moving on. Yes, Ma'am Manulit.
Ma'am, ano po yung magiging basehan if needed na pong ma-amputate yung isang part ng tao po?
Hmm, okey. So, for your amputation usually ay nire-refer yan talaga sa surgeon. Pero ang ginagawa natin or ino-observe pagka yung ano, nangingitim na siya, parang alam 'di ba yung necrotizing fasciitis yung nangingitim siya, gano'n yung itsura niya sa paa. Parang kung wala ng maise-save kasi minsan may mga surgeon ino-observe nila kung may mase-save pang part ng paa. So, kunyari sa big toe, dun lang merong infection or pangit yung ano niya, yung sugat, yun lang tinatanggal. Sine-save pa yung the rest of the toes and foot, ganyan. Depende sa surgeon or yung iba 'pag medyo nangingitim na talaga yung pinakauna, lahat ng toes, that's the time you do amputation. May leveling din 'yan, minsan hindi lang sa paa, 'di ba meron ding below the knee, so pati yung leg ina-amputate, gano'n siya.
Okay po, thank you po ma'am.
Sige. Okey, thank you.
Ma'am, ano po yung
Hmm,
kusa po siyang umiitim 'pag meron ka pong type 2 diabetes?
mm. Pagka kunyari may non-healing wound ka, kaya nga 'yun nga 'di ba, pina-advice natin na i-check lagi yung mga pagitan ng kahit pagitan minsan ng mga toes. Minsan dun siya nagsisimula, or yung iba yung nagpapam-pedicure, 'yan common din 'yan, papatanggal ng ingrown. Yung iba napapansin agad ng mga kamag-anak kaya dinadala sa clinic, pero yung iba talagang hindi na nila nararamdaman tapos wala silang kasama sa bahay, hindi nila napapansin or dinededma lang nila yung sugat. Kaya in the long run pumapangit na siya, nagne-necrotize na siya, yun.
Okay
So,
po ma'am,
kasi nga
thank you po.
kasi 'di ba 'pag mataas yung blood sugar mo malapot yung dugo. Para lang din yan 'di ba 'pag naglagay ka ng sugar sa tubig. So, saturated siya, gano'n siya kalapot. So, gano'n din sa blood kaya hindi maganda yung blood flow niya. It would even cause 'di ba nga sabi ko nga yung stroke kasi nga puwede kang magkaroon ng barang blood vessel. So, gano'n din sa heart tsaka 'yun in the peripheries, kakaroon ng blockage sa mga arteries dahil sa uncontrolled sugar. O yun, hindi na nila pinapansin kung kailan nangangamoy na siya. Minsan nakakita kami patient, iba na yung talagang open wound siya tapos maamoy na. Hindi ko na lang nilagay dito yung picture ng mga gano'n kasi medyo gross. Okay, sige. So, ito lang yung summary niya. Inulit-ulit ko lang para matandaan niyo yung sa DKA. So, hyperglycemia, both of them, ketosis, kaya nga siya ketoacidosis for your DKA, for your HHS, hyperosmolality, kaya treatment niya is replacement of fluid and electrolytes. Okay, next na tayo, your adrenal gland disorders. So, wala bang tanong pa iba sa diabetes? Baka may consult din kayo sa mga parents yung may diabetic. Okay, so move on na tayo. Itong adrenal disorders, actually, adrenal gland disorders, hindi siya common pero ito kasi yung nandoon sa ating syllabus. Kung ako nga tatanungin, mas gusto ko pang i-discuss yung sa thyroid kasi yun talaga yung common. Anyway, so adrenal gland disorder. So your adrenal gland is located at the superior pole of your kidneys. So meron siyang mga zone. So you have your adrenal cortex and medulla. So ito lang yung dapat yung tandaan. Sa zona glomerulosa, ang sinisikret doon ay ang inyong aldosterone, your mineralocorticoid. So it is important for blood volume, blood pressure, sodium and potassium balance, and it is regulated by your angiotensin 2 potassium, not primarily your ACTH or your adenocorticotropic hormone. And then for your zona fasciculata, you have your glucocorticoid, which is your cortisol. It is important for your sugar metabolism, your stress response, and it is regulated by your ACTH. Okay, so cortisol. Start tayo sa cortisol. So, as we've said, it is a primary glucocorticoid. So, naka-bold letters na po yung mga dapat nating tandaan regarding your cortisol. So, it is an insulin antagonist. So, sila ang magkaaway. Hindi yung magkaaway, pero kumbaga, they balance out each other. So, in increasing blood levels and peripheral use of glucose, they activate your key enzymes. So, ito ay medyo biochem level na. Involving your hepatic gluconeogenesis, inhibiting glucose uptake sa periphery. So, pagka ini-inhibit ang glucose sa periphery, na tumataas ang levels niya sa blood. Okay, so it also increases your blood pressure by potentiating the vasoconstrictor action of your catecholamines, your epinephrine, your norepinephrine. And then also it is your anti-inflammatory, and it activates your osteoclast and inhibits your osteoblasts. Again, your osteoclast is primarily for your bone resorption. Your osteoblasts are for your bone formation. Yan, maraming nagkamali sa exam. Uulitin ko uli yun. Oh, so this is how it is regulated. Your central nervous system mediates your circadian rhythm or in response to stress. From your hypothalamus, your corticotropin releasing hormone stimulates the production of your ACTH, your adrenocorticotropic hormone. And then this ACTH will stimulate your adrenal cortex, producing your cortisol. Next is your aldosterone, so found in your zona glomerulosa. It is your primary mineralocorticoid. So, yung isa, glucocorticoid. As the name suggests, yung cortisol, di ba? Glucocorticoid, cortisol. And your aldosterone is your mineralocorticoid. So your aldosterone is essential to your sodium and potassium balance. So sabi nga, it regulates your blood pressure, and also it promotes sodium and water retention and potassium excretion. So yun lang po yung dapat natin tandaan dun. Sa aldosterone, sodium potassium balance, you're regulating your blood pressure. It is your primary mineralocorticoid, while your cortisol is your primary glucocorticoid. It is your insulin antagonist. Okay po, may tanong pa po ba? So your aldosterone, nasa-sense ng katawan yan if there's a drop in your volume or blood pressure, causing your renin to release your angiotensinogen to form your angiotensin 1 and 2, and eventually stimulating the secretion of your aldosterone from your adrenal cortex. So, when blood pressure rises, renin angiotensin release diminishes, so sending a negative feedback. So, baliktad naman siya pagka mataas ang BP, binababa naman yung renin angiotensin, binababaan niya ang pag-release ng aldosterone. Okay, may tanong po? So, sabi ko nga, ang endocrine disorders, you have just, in your pathophysiology, you only have your hormone excess or hormone deficiency. So, ito yon yung mga common na lang i-discuss natin. So, for your glucocorticoid excess, you have your Cushing syndrome. For your adrenocortical insufficiency, your Addison's disease. So, here are the features. Mamaya may papakita kong slide para mas matandaan nyo siya. Okay, so kaya siya versus kasi nga ang Cushing's disease is more on your excess of your cortisol, while your Addison is your insufficiency, kulang. So, for your Cushing's disease, endocrine condition, excess cortisol, usually coming from, or your causes would have your long-term glucocorticoid therapy. That's why sa mga pasyente, hindi natin ina-advise, lalo na yung mga nagkakaroon ng pain. Usually kasi dahil ang steroid or your corticosteroids uh, are anti-inflammatory agents. So, pagka may masakit, usually mga may arthritis yan, pinapayo ng kapitbahay o inom ka prednisone or any steroid. Tapos, hindi naman siya nati-taper na maayos. Yun, nagkakaroon sila ng Cushing's disease yung iba. Or yung ibang may mga autoimmune diseases. Pagka naglo-long term sila ng steroid therapy, some would have your Cushing's disease. And also, if you have your pituitary tumors, adrenal tumors, your ectopic ACTH producing tumors, so these tumors would cause your Cushing's disease. While on the other hand, your Addison's, yung causes niya are your autoimmune destruction of your adrenal gland. Ito rin, yung sudden discontinuation naman of your steroids. And also, it would also come from your infections. Yung iba may TB, infectious adrenalitis. Yan. So just to clarify, magkaiba yung Cushing syndrome sa disease. So yung Cushing syndrome, it is a syndrome, an endocrine disorder in which cortisol's level are elevated in your body. So there are a number of underlying causes as we've mentioned. So yung Cushing's disease, ito yung uh, Cushing's syndrome, which is primarily specifically caused by a pituitary tumor. This is a specific subtype of Cushing syndrome. Ito again sa comparison ng Cushing syndrome and adrenocortical insufficiency. This is lifted from your Basnick book. So, ang tatandaan nyo sa Cushing, medyo mataba siya, truncal obesity, monophasis, hirsutism, may mga stray siya. So, usually lahat ng hyper sa kanya, hypertension, um, uh, ang pagkakaiba lang nila is your potassium pala. Hypokalemic kapagka Cushing. Pagka may adrenocortical insufficiency, hypotension, hypoglycemia, may hyperpigmentation, hyperkalemia, and weight loss. Okay, so ito, mahilig kasi ako talaga sa mga pictures, sa mga comparison. So, Cushing syndrome, ito itsura niya. So, yun nga, meron siyang fat deposits on back, yung fat pad, yung buffalo hump, moon phases, ito yung striae, yan common sa kanila, and also osteoporosis. So, nagkaka-osteoporosis din sa Cushing's dahil nga it favors your osteoclast. For your Addison, so you have bronze pigmentation of your skin, may hypoglycemia, postural hypotension, weakness and weight loss. Ayan, nyo rin yan. So for the treatment sa Addison, so treat the underlying cause, restore blood circulation, kung kailangan ng fluids, steroids. This is how you give your steroids. It's just nice to know, hindi nyo naman kailangan kabisaduhin, pero lalo na sa mga magme-med, you may memorize this. So antibiotics for your infection usually, especially those who have adrenal crisis, and then monitor for stressors or other illnesses. For your Cushing, so as we've said, yung mga isa sa causes na is mga tumor. So yung mga pituitary tumors, you do transsphenoidal adrenectomy, radiation therapy, chemo, or even adrenalectomy kung nandun yung tumor sa adrenals. And stopping your medications or tapering or ayusin yung dosages ng mga steroids natin. Okay, so may tanong pa ba? Next na tayo. Ito na yung last topic sa adrenals or congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So congenital siya, meaning since birth. So it is a group of your autosomal recessive disorders resulting from the deficiency of one of the 5 enzymes which are required for the synthesis of your cortisol in your adrenal cortex. So, marami siyang klase actually. So, yung dalawa lang yung i-discuss natin. The most frequent one is your 21-hydroxylase deficiency, accounting for more than 90% of the cases. Okay, so yan siya, your congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So, enlarged adrenal glands at birth. So, this would send caused by enzyme deficiency nga. So, merong enzyme na hindi mako-convert kaya siya maiiba ng pathway, decreasing your steroids or your cortisol. So, ito siya, may classical and non-classical siya na congenital type of your adrenal hyperplasia. For your classical, this is your 21 hydroxylase deficiency, your salt wasting type. So, this enzyme, your 17 hydroxyprogesterone, is needed, um, and this hydroxylase is needed to convert this progesterone to your cortisol. Kaya, pag nawala yung enzyme na yan, yung 21 hydroxylase na yan, di mako-convert, bababa ang yung cortisol and uh, aldosterone. So, ito siya. From your adrenocorticotropic hormone, di ba yung cholesterol, these are your precursors for your androgens, for your hormones, yung mga cholesterol. If your 17 hydroxyprogesterone is not converted due to the absence of your 21 hydroxylase, ito yung magiging effects niya. So, deficiency in your aldosterone and cortisol, well, excess in your androgens. Kaya, ang mga may CAH, yung mga may congenital adrenal hyperplasia is meron siyang virilization. So, yung virilization, meaning yung pang-female dapat na characteristic, nagiging male characteristic siya. And then your non-classical is your 11B hydroxylase deficiency. So, this would increase the levels of your ACTH, your testosterone, DHEA, and usually ito ay mas sa elderly, adolescent, or adulthood nagpe-present. So, yung nasa dulo siya, yung beta hydroxylase deficiency. So, pag wala yun, tataas yung androsterone, DHEA, ACTH. So, clinical features, yung more on virilization, yun na lang tandaan nyo. So, newborns may have atypical genitalia with fused labia or clitoromegaly. So, ito siya. Yan. Ito ay picture ng female infant na may congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So, yan. May virilization. So, hindi nag-transform yung kanyang genitalia sa labia. So, nag-fuse yung labia with enlarged clitoris na nagre-resemble siya na scrotal sac. So, for treatment, prenatal treatment of mother with steroids, pwede siya. Or surgical correction na lang. Kunyari, naipanganak na siya. So, pagtanda na, sa surgical, na lang, correction. Okay, so yun yung first part na. May mga tanong po ba dito sa ating endo disorders? O nakatulog na naman sila. So yun, so sa endo disorders, tandaan nyo na lang po yung ating diabetes. Marami kong itatanong dyan. Dito sa adrenal disorders, ito lang yung Cushing's tsaka yung Addison's yan. Yan tandaan nyo. Yung cortisol tsaka aldosterone yan. Difference nila. Okay? Move on na ba tayo? 8:00 na. Sige. Para matapos na tayo. Okay. Dito naman tayo sa nervous system. Actually, itong last two topics, hindi ko masyadong favorite. Ayan. So, nervous system disorders na tayo. Kaya, yan. So, for your initially, you have your CNS infection. So, to differentiate first your meningitis from your encephalitis. Meron na ba sa inyo nagka-meningitis nung bata? Anyway, your meningitis is the inflammation or swelling of your tissue layer, brain tissue layer, meninges. So, it would cover your brain up to your spinal cord. Yung ano lang siya ha, yung meninges lang, yung nakapalibot lang dun sa brain in your spinal cord. While your encephalitis is yung brain mismo yung nagsiswell, your central nervous system. Okay, so start off meningitis or inflammation of your meninges. It could be bacterial, viral, fungal, parasitic. Ito na naman po tayo sa mga most common etiologic agent. So for your bacteria, your strep pneumoniae, for your viruses or herpes simplex viruses. Fungal infections are rare, so tulad ng other kind of infections, it is opportunistic, meaning kapag immunocompromised lang ang host, tsaka siya aatake. Taking the opportunity. So those are your fungals. So for your clinical presentation, symptoms niya, usually pasyente dadating, "Masakit po yung ulo ko, tas nilalagnat po ako." Yan, magsususpect na tayo na baka may meningitis yung patient. So some would have also photophobia, sensitivity to light. Yung iba, altered mental state na. Ibig sabihin, confused siya or antok-antok yung pasyente. Then you have your signs of increased ICP, intracranial pressure, your nausea, vomiting, headache. So for the classic symptoms, makitandaan po classic symptoms ng meningitis, fever, nuchal rigidity, and altered mental status. So nuchal rigidity, sa may batok yun. Merong test na ginagawa dyan, your Kernig's or your Brudzinski's sign to test for your meningitis. And also your non-specific symptoms of infection, chills, vomiting, fever. Yan. For the diagnosis, we do lumbar puncture. Yun lang kasi ang hirap nga, hindi pa kayo nakakapag nagki-clinical chemistry. So, dun yung mapapag-aralan yun, yung sa CSF analysis. You assess for your WBCs, your glucose and protein. Dun kasi natin ma-determine yung etiology niya, kung bacterial, viral, fungal, or um, minsan parasitic, nakikita rin dun. So ito yung mga types of meningitis. And ito na lang po yung pakitandaan. For patients who are less than 1 month old, the most common will be these bacterial pathogens, Strep agalactiae, E. coli, Listeria. For mga elderly na or adolescent, your Neisseria meningitidis and your Strep pneumoniae. Ito po pakitandaan po yung etiologic agent. Lalabas natin yan sa exam. So, here are just your treatment options for your meningitis. Hindi ko na masyado i-dwell. It's just nice to know your broad spectrum, your ampicillins, for your streptococcus, your E. coli, Listeria. So, for mga higher class of infections, dahil nasa brain ang infection, we give higher classes of antibiotics or vancomycin. Next is your encephalitis. So, it is the inflammation of your parenchymal brain. So, most common usually pag encephalitis viral. Your herpes sa Pilipinas, rabies virus. Yan. So, etiologic agents, just nice to know. Hindi ko na rin masyadong ibibigyan sa exam. For your neonates, yung HSV type 2. Sa mga elderly, yung mga West Nile virus yan, mga Jackson-Colt disease. So, the WHO defines encephalitis as a person of any age, any time of the year with an acute onset of fever, change in mental status, confusion, disorientation, or even coma, or new onset of seizure. So, ito yung mas life-threatening encephalitis unlike your meningitis. Both of them can be treated. However, mas severe type yung encephalitis kasi nga yung mismong brain and usually may seizure pag encephalitis. Pagka meningitis, bihira naman yung seizure. Okay, so ito yung isa sa mga causes ng encephalitis lalo na sa Pilipinas. So, yung rabies virus, ito talaga 'pag nagkaroon ka na ng symptoms ng encephalitis or even, um, yung, salivary, drooping, mga ganyan, naglalaway, ah, endpoint na yun ng rabies, wala ng treatment doon. So, 'pag nakagat ng aso, so ang med ang learning ano lang dito is 'pag nakagat ng aso magpa-inject agad ng anti-rabies, kahit na may bakuna pa yung alaga niyong aso. Kasi hindi natin masasabi if 100% kasi 'di ba lagi na natin sinasabi ang vaccine is just for preventive, not for your treatment. 'Pag nagkaroon ka na ng symptoms ng rabies, encephalitis lalo na, that will be the end of all. Mamatay ka na. Kasi ang rabies is 100% ang mortality rate niya or it is fatal, really fatal if you have these symptoms na. So, this is how you acquire this encephalitis through your rabies virus. So, inoculation, pag nakagat, nagre-replicate siya sa muscle, and then the virus will bind to your nicotinic acetylcholine receptors at your neuromuscular junction. Kaya usually, yun nga yung symptoms niya, yung naglalaway or even your sensory maapektuhan kasi yung konting hangin lang yan, parang nalulunod na ganun yung usual symptoms pang rabies infected ka na. And then eventually, it will infect your brain, your neurons, causing your encephalitis. And then, yun na siya. So these are just your therapeutic options naman for your viral encephalitis or your bacterial encephalitis. Okay, so ito yung sinasabi kong CSF analysis. So ma-encounter nyo din to pag nag-clinical chemistry kayo. So pag normal, it is a clear fluid. So may opening pressure siya na 5 to 20, leukocytes of less than 5. Yung glucose niya is 45. Not, ito ay hindi yung iba-iba rin kasi yung values nila eh. Yung laboratory values sa normal. So, ang gusto ko lang tandaan nyo if it is bacterial, viral, fungal, or TB, yung distinct characteristic niya. So, bacterial, more on turbid siya, malabo-labo. And then, sa leukocyte, um, or your differential count na lang. Ito na naman tayo, neutrophil. Basta bacterial po ay neutrophil. Pagka viral, lymphocyte predominance and also your TB or tuberculosis. And then, yun na lang, tandaan nyo. So, differential count ng pagka more on neutrophil predominance, bacterial. Pagka viral, lymphocytic talaga yan. Early on neutrophil pero eventually lymphocytes ang predominating cells dyan. Okay, may tanong po ba? Wala naman. So, this is how you do your lumbar tap. So, yung position na ganyan, fetal position, tapos yung needle niyan talagang malaki. Kasi tatagos siya dito sa spine, in between your interspinous area. Then you get the fluid. Siyempre dahan-dahan lang, baka pag hinigop mo lahat, sasakit ang ulo ng pasyente afterwards pagka ganun. Okay, next na tayo, yung brain abscess. So, it is an intracerebral collection of pus. So, again, your symptoms should include your headache, lethargy, fever, yung focal neurologic deficits, depende sa location ng abscess. So, here's how you acquire your brain abscess. Ito rin po pakitandaan. So, para din siyang yung septic arthritis, di ba? Meron siyang hematogenous route, ganun. So, ganito rin siya for your brain abscess. So, you have your direct extension of cranial infections. Yung ibang may mastoiditis. So, as you can see in the picture, your right upper picture, yung may mastoiditis na nakikita nyo. Nagkaroon ng abscess formation kasi na nag-extend siya sa brain. Kasi malapit lang yun, magkalapit lang. Tapos you're penetrating head wounds, o either from surgery yan or ah, yung mga neurosurgical procedures, and then your hematogenous route. This would include your endocarditis. So yan, pagka galing sa heart yung infection, pwede siyang maging embolus, sepsis ka, and then eventually pwede mapunta sa brain yan, abscess, and unknown causes. So here are the etiologic agents. Ano ba papatanda ko sa inyo? Sa HIV na lang. Yan, yung HIV infection, you have your Toxoplasma gondii. Hmm, for the others, siguro nice to know na lang. Yan. So, ito lang yung treatment options sa mga may brain abscess. So, depending on the location din yan. So, there's a role for surgery. So, what are the indications? So, kunyari, nag-antibiotic therapy na tayo, naka 1 week na, hindi pa rin siya nag improve, hindi pa rin siya nagigising, hindi pa okay yung sensorium niya. Or pag CT scan, by the way, ang diagnostics na ginagawa natin is your CT scan. Ito siya, yung nasa right lower picture. So, kunyari, pinaulit yung CT scan, yung bilog na yan, yung dark, medyo mas hyperlucent, yung mas maitim, yan yung abscess. So, kunyari, pinaulit yung CT scan, lumaki pa yung area na yan. That's the time we do your surgical drainage. Saka depende rin kasi sa location ng brain abscess, kung malapit lang siya dun sa pwedeng i-drain. Kasi kung sobrang lalim, mas mahirap siyang i-drain pagka gano'n. Okay, so here are the minor topics na lang 'to, acute alcohol intoxication. It's just nice to know kung ano yung standard drink nandito sa yung mga umiinom diyan. So, standard lang tayo kung ilang percent ng alcohol, 12 ounce. Kasi if you have your intoxication, puwede kang magkaroon ng dysphoria, euphoria, 'di ba? And minsan naka-high, parang kang naka-drugs din, parang kaya nga nagiinom yung iba, eh, 'di ba? Para ma-release yung stress daw or, ah, mai-ano, let out yung emotions. But, kahit naman sa anong bagay pagkasobra siyempre, it's not good. So, for the treatment, usually yan dumadating sa ER, sasabihin nung kamag-anak, "Doktora, bigla na lang siya nawalan ng malay." Papanik yung kamag-anak. Pagdating sa ER, amoy alak. So, binibigyan lang namin ng IV fluids, binibigyan namin ng vitamin B complex. Maya-maya yan gising na yung pasyente. Tapos papauwi na siya. Parang walang nangyari. So, yan. Wala naman ako masyadong itatanong diyan. Okay, next is your dementia and your Alzheimer's. So, for your Alzheimer's, it is a specific neurodegenerative disease characterized by an increased amount of your beta amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles in the brain. And while your dementia is a decline in your cognitive function associated with this Alzheimer's. So, yung dementia, marami siyang klase. So, one of these is your Alzheimer's. Parang ang Alzheimer's is under your dementia. Well, here's another difference. So, Alzheimer's is the disease. So, it is the most common cause of your dementia. So, while your dementia is a group of symptoms, it is a term for anything that can cause brain function issues like your confusion, memory loss, loss of problem-solving ability, and also your Alzheimer's is irreversible while your dementia is reversible. Yan, pakitandaan din po ito. This one and this one. Yun lang, hindi ko na siya masyadong dinwell, more on psych. Sa psych. It's just for you to know what's the difference between your Alzheimer's and dementia. Dinidiscuss ko na lang siya ng gano'n, eh, para mas madali kaysa isa-isahin ko siya. So, ito na yung last topic, stroke. Ito medyo madali-daling i-discuss kasi meron siyang clinical significance. So, your CVD, your cerebrovascular disease, is any abnormality in the brain resulting from a vascular pathologic process, either from an occlusion from your embolus or thrombus, while your stroke is the specific type of your cerebrovascular disease. So we have two kinds of stroke, your ischemia and your hemorrhage. So ito siya, hemorrhagic stroke where there is rupture causing your CVD bleed, while your ischemic, there's a clot formation which interferes the blood supply to your brain. So, ang pinaka-common po dito at pakitandaan po ay yung ischemic stroke. Most of the time, yan yung tinatawag na mild stroke ng mga pasyente. Na-stroke po ba pasyente nyo? Pag tinanong, mild lang po. Mild lang. Kasi yung symptoms niya, yung mga ischemic stroke talaga medyo mas mild siya kumpara sa hemorrhagic. However, uh, with with diagnose generally stroke based from your symptoms. Pero yung etiology na, you need to have your CT scan done to uh, to evaluate if it is hemorrhagic or ischemic. Ito na naman po tayo sa mga risk factors. Pakitandaan din po yung mga non-modifiable. O yung age, race. So sa age, syempre pag mas tumatanda, mas nagiging weak or ano na yung mga blood vessels natin. Madaling mag-rupture or ma-block. Sa race, more on the blocks. Then sa sex, common siya sa men, especially those with family history. So, kung may mga lahi po rin sila ng mga stroke, ayan. Saka 'di ba ito, yung diabetes, isa siya sa modifiable risk factors ng stroke. Also, with your hypertension, dyslipidemia, cigarette smoking, obesity, physical inactivity. Halos parehas lang sila dun sa risk factors ng MI ng our heart attack, myocardial infarction. So ito yung yung pinakasikat, yung FAST. How to evaluate the patient in your mabilisan lang. So if the patient has facial asymmetry, how do you do it? You have let the person smile or show his teeth. So kung merong hindi nagmo-move sa kabilang side, there's drooping. So next is your arm drift. So have the person close his eyes and hold his arms straight. Paano naka-arms forward siya na nakapikit. If there would be drifting or kunyari, bababa yung right or left side ng kanyang arm, that's drifting. Then slurred speech. So have the person say kahit anong words or tanungin niyo yung pangalan niya. Then if the patient has slurred speech, so most probably you suspect stroke. Then if na-assess niyo na siya ng ganyan, timing is important. So dalhin niyo agad sa emergency room. Agad-agad. Kaya siya fast. So yan, ganyan itsura niya sa fast. Face, arm, speech time. So, ito lang yung mga general symptoms ng stroke. So, if your parents or grandparents would complain of headache, bipin nyo agad sila, lalo na yung mga may high blood. Or sabihin, or pag nagsalita sila, medyo bulol na, or nangiwi sila, tapos or merong part na hindi ma-move or sasabihin na mamanhid yung kalahating bahagi ng katawan, that would most probably be due to stroke. So mag-suspect agad kayo. High index of suspicion sa mga ganun. Yung iba naman, ang symptoms, hirap lumunok, or yung ibang stroke na pasyente, may gusto silang sabihin pero hindi nila masabi. Either umuungo lang sila or pag tinanong mo, iba yung sasagot nila sa'yo. Yan. Okay, so you do CT scan for this patient. So here is the normal. On your left is the normal CT scan. On your right, you have your hemorrhage or your bleed on the pontine area. Yung super white na nasa gitna. Yan yung bleed. Ito yung normal kasi, yung nasa left. Halos puro gray area siya, di ba? Yung super white na nakapalibot, yan yung bone. Pero yung nasa loob na 'to, yung nasa right na nasa loob na super white, yun yung bleed. Here's an example naman yung mga infarct or your blockage na nag-convert to the right na naging hemorrhagic siya. Kung napapansin niyo yung nasa left side, merong gray area pero merong mga darkened area. So yun yung sorry, wala ako, hindi ko nalagyan ng pointer. Um, Sige, lalagyan ko na lang. Dito siya. Yan. Yan yung area na ischemia. Talagang dito ako nag-edit. Sorry guys ah. Hindi ko kasi nalagyan. Yan. Tatapos na tayo, kayo mag-alala. Yun siya. Tapos ito yung isa. Ito yung hemorrhagic conversion na tinatawag. So, pwede siya ma-convert from your ischemic stroke to your hemorrhagic. Pwede siyang maging ganun. So, we do CT scan for patients, repeat CT scan for patients na nagdi-deteriorate yung symptoms. Pero yung, kunyari na diagnose na sa CT scan na infarct or may barang ugat, tapos okay naman yung nag-i-improve yung symptoms or walang deterioration ng symptoms, hindi na natin pinapaulit yung CT scan. Okay, yan. Mas okay na po ba? Yan siya. So, for the therapy, so, it's just nice to know. Tapos, magkaiba syempre ang treatment ng infarct or yung barang ugat sa hemorrhagic stroke. Pagka hemorrhagic stroke, usually, we control ito siya, i-give mannitol para ma-decrease yung intracranial pressure, while for your ischemic, we give antithrombotics, yung mga aspirin para mag-lyse kung kaya pang i-lyse yung blood clots. So, yun lang siya. May mga tanong po ba? Tapos na po tayo, guys. Yes po.
Ma'am, ask ko lang po, if
Mm.
kung mangyari sa isang tao yung FAST or FAST po, pwede po ba
Mm.
yung mabalik sa normal state yung body?
Sa mga patients na gano'n, kunyari, infarct or yung bang ano, yung kunyari, yung pamamanhid or ito ba? So, we advise rehab sa mga physical rehabilitation. Kasi may mga exercise na ginagawa sa rehab para bumalik yung dati nilang strength. Kunyari, ang defect niya is facial asymmetry or more on motor, yung arm drift. Hindi na siya 100% mababalik, but we could try to have them rehabilitated. Kaya yung iba nakikita nyo, umiika na sila or nakabagsak na lang yung right or left arm nila, yung mga na-stroke na yun. Depende rin kasi sa damage or kung alin yung masisave natin na part ng brain. Minsan kasi yun nga, tulad ng iba sinasabi, mild stroke lang po. Kumbaga, nabulol lang pero bumalik din sa dati. Kung agad talaga sila madadala sa ER, ma-assess agad, mabigyan ng medication, nahahabol pa. Pero yung iba, permanently damaged na yung brain, syempre hindi na nga siya nagre-regenerate. So, kung aling part yung tinamaan, kung saan nagko-control yung part ng brain na yun, hindi na natin 100% mababalik. Yung sa mga paglalakad or yun nga sa mga weakness sa mga extremities, pinapa-rehab na lang natin sila. Physical rehabilitation.
Okay po. Thank you po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Yung tanong pa po, nakatulog na yata yung iba. O basta, o basta. Sinabi ko na sa inyo yung in-emphasize na Ayoko nga pakita grades niyo, ito sana siya, eh. Next. So, sa Wednesday, anyway, pala, muna, congrats sa inyo dahil may naka-perfect. So, ang ginawa ko na lang, nag nag nag-encode na lang ako ng separate quiz na lahat kayo ay perfect. So, 10 points 'yun. So, gano'n din ang gagawin ko for this next quiz in case may maka-perfect, 10 points. Another separate quiz na 10 points kayo lahat na perfect lahat. Okay na po ba 'yun, guys? Baka po meron pang magrereklamo. Sige, send ko na lang yung PowerPoint again ang emphasize ko na ibibigay ko sa quiz nyo, tsaka isasama ko sa exam. Ito na lang yung mga questions na kailangan ko para makumpleto yung finals na questionnaire nyo. So, sa final, sabi ko nga, yung sa midterms, bibigay ko na lang sa Wednesday yung test paper. So, mostly, I'll get mostly, mostly of the questions I will get from your midterms. Siguro mga 60 to 70%. Mga gano'n. Tapos the rest will be coming from your cardio recipe, endo, neuro GI, renal. Yung pang finals na topics. So yan, diabetes. Dami kong tatanong dyan kasi common naman siya. Yan, yung mga may red boxes. Complications, your DKA, HHS. Sa adrenal gland, ang difference lang, yung cortisol, yung aldosterone, yung Cushing's Addisons. Yun lang. Tapos sa neuro, I will be give questions more on stroke. Ito, alam niyo na yan, yung mga modifiable, non-modifiable. Ischemic hemorrhagic stroke, difference ng Alzheimer's and dementia. Hindi na yan. Sa brain abscess, pakitandaan ng pathogenesis. Yung dito, kukunin ko lang HIV infection, toxoplasma. Ito, dahil hindi pa kayo nag-clinical chemistry, hindi ko muna bibigay, pero na-encounter nyo naman siya doon. Ito, sa rabies, yung mga encephalitis, tandaan nyo na lang sa rabies. Sa meningitis, ito, pakitandaan yung mga etiologic agent, most common, laging tinatanong. Ito, yung sa symptoms or clinical presentation ng meningitis, definition ng meningitis. Yun lang. Kayo, may tanong pa kayo? Ni-rundown ko na ha, yung sound ng magta-transcribe. Lagyan mo na lang ng exclamation point, highlight lahat. Okay. Okay na. Wala na yung mga aso. Okay, so Ma'am Britney, see you later. Isesend ko na lang PowerPoint sa kanya. Okay. Uy, baka makita niyo grades niyo. Susunod na lang. Yorn. Basta susubukan kong ipasa lahat, ha? Pero may iba kasi na mababa talaga, hindi ko na alam paano hahatakin pataas yung grade. Kaya please, yung last quiz tsaka yung finals. Although yung last quiz nyo na maganda yung mga results. Congratulations sa inyo. O itong kasunod sana. Kailangan pala laging dalawa lang choices, ano. Yung mga naka-perfect, i-reveal ko na lang sa Wednesday. Perfect reveal. What? Siya. Tulog na kayo. See you on Wednesday. Let's start the quiz. ng 7:20 na lang. Sige, 7:20. Just don't be late kasi magche-check din tayo ng midterms para alam niyo yung tamang sagot. And syempre, kung ita-try kong gusto niyo lang makita yung grades niyo, baka sa index card na lang. Wag nang malungkot. May mga pumasa naman. Kaya lang, masakit sa loob pag may bumagsak. Wag naman. Ayoko na rin hahanapin niyo pa ako kung saan-saan para ayoko na kayong mahirapan. Eh, wag niyo na lang din ako pahirapan gumawa ng grades niyo. Wink, ayan siya. Yee. Siya, next week na lang. Ay, next week, sa Wednesday. Sorry. Wednesday na lang, guys. Okay, wala nang tanong. Wag wawala na yung mga aso. Okay, bye-bye.